There. All right, we're live. That was quick. Episode 76, This Life in Tech. I'm Jason.
And I'm Dan. Yeah. Let me get back into my, green screen. It's like, oh, I lost my arm.
Hey, man, by the way, so I don't know if anybody out there has ever put in their own insulation, like fiberglass rolls. Dude, that is work.
Yeah.
We decided, and my office is almost ready finally, man. And so the electrician came. Well, I want to talk about leadership and competence today, and this is going to be my segue to it. So I'm not going to do the electricity myself, man. First of all, I don't like monkeying with that stuff because it can kill you easily if you make a mistake. You have to, in North Carolina, as I understand it, if you're not a licensed contractor, electrician, you can pass a test to do certain types of work on your own property, but you still have to have permits and all this jazz, whatever, man. So I found a family friend that has done work for everybody, and he agreed to do this work for me. We got to the point of digging the trench to run the line from my house to the office. And this was a couple Thursdays ago when I had a problem because, well, the cable company originally didn't lay the line correctly. It wasn't in the right place and it wasn't deep enough. So we severed it.
All right.
That was kind of intentional because I wanted them to move it, right? So they moved it like right after that podcast. Put the temporary line in, and like a week later, the crew shows up, which is a subcontractor for Comcast. Who the fuck do I have? Spectrum, Time Warner, to dig the trench for the temporary line so it's buried. These guys are in and out like in 5 minutes, and I'm like, dude, that was really quick. What the hell? They severed all of my neighbors' lines. And I don't know how you dig it. So the trench they dig isn't 18 inches like for power or whatever, right? It's like a couple inches. Still though, man, that machine is like a big sled with a tooth that grinds on it, right? They severed it. I don't have many neighbors, but I have a few. And where I'm at on the land is the last run. So the pole's in my backyard, the distribution pole, and everybody's cable comes off that pole. Okay. So across the field, I have a neighbor who happens to be a pastor at the church down the street. His name's Terry, super nice guy. His run is from the pole all the way through my property under the street to his house. And these dickheads severed all of them. And when I walked back there, I saw it. I mean, you could just see all the cables sticking up.
That would be great.
So they did their job. I mean, they buried my line. It was fine. I had no idea what was going on.
That's awesome. Now all your neighbors don't have cable.
Yeah, and they're all like, well, the Spectrum guy shows up, which is the same dude. This is one of the nice things I've found about here is you call for service, and it's usually the same dude because they get assigned to these areas. And I know him now, right? And I'm like, hey, man, what's up? I'm totally fine. I didn't put a call. And he's like, no, your neighbor did. And I'm like, which one? And he's like, well, because I only have two of them. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, apparently their cable went out. I'm like, when? And he told me. I'm like, oh,
I know how that happened.
Yeah, let's go take a look. Man.
Oh, that's classic. Oh.
But anyway, so this is the segue into leadership. So you're digging this trench, man, and like, okay, I get it. You're a subcontractor. You're probably getting paid by job. So you have to stack up your job. So you're kind of in a hurry. Maybe you're behind schedule for some reason. You just want to get the work done. And you sever these lines. Now, because of the way those lines run, either you're going to have to tear my yard up all the way, including the street, or you're going to have to splice them, which is what they ended up doing, is splicing them back together. I mean, how do you not call somebody and be like, hey, listen, man, I screwed up. I made a mistake. Let's get this fixed so nobody's really negatively impacted unnecessarily, right?
Well, they're contractors, and I guess they had no contractual obligation, and maybe they didn't screw up. Maybe whoever laid it before them because it shouldn't have been in that area. But I just sit there and go, don't they have the stuff to be able to check and then spray like I see everywhere else? Why didn't that happen, just to make sure?
Well, and so check this out though, right? Before I had done anything to get the permit, you have to call in to the city and the county, and they send people out. Now, my property actually splits two counties. There's a little bit of it that's in one county, and the bulk of it's in another county. But I filed tickets with both, and they came out and they marked the ground with flags and spray paint. So it was marked. I mean, you know what I mean? It wasn't. I'm not going to say it was marked in a way where it was like X marks the spot, because it had been a week. It had rained a couple times. You dig what I'm saying? The lawn had been mowed, but they're like, yeah, job's done later.
Well, because they need to come back out. They're going to get paid again.
I don't know. I don't know if they come, but yeah, exactly. See, that's the other thing too. But you would figure that there's two guys, right?
Yeah.
You would figure one of them is like the supervisor of the team or the lead of the team, right? So as a leader, I think one of the best qualities, maybe we'll talk about like our favorite qualities and favorite incompetences in leadership. One of my favorite qualities in a leader, and something that I try to really think about doing myself, is taking responsibility for the failures, but not the successes. The successes are the teams. The failures, I think, are mine as a leader, because I didn't lead properly. I mean, barring gross negligence, right? I mean, you can't take responsibility for literally everything.
Yeah, I sometimes I say yes, sometimes I say no. Yes, in terms of, you don't take credit for the successes, but it depends on where they're at in the food chain, I think, for the failures at times. And here's one of the things that happened with me, and I try to instill this in my team. I basically learned some of the, my good leaders that I had, which were also mentors. You screwed up one time, they took the bullet for you once. The second time, they didn't have to say you screwed up, but you were the one that was giving the briefing on what actually occurred to the team or to the team at large. And everyone knew you were the reason why this screwed up. And you had to take those questions and fiery darts coming at you so you could learn how to swim with the sharks. So there was a good, good aspect of, hey, if you're going to be a leader, then you got to learn how to take accountability too. And you screwed up, so go defend yourself, so to speak, not in a way in which then people are still going to trust you. So I try to put that into my team that works, my direct reports.
Well, and I think that's a fair point, and actually segues to my next one, which is it took me a while to really understand what this meant at a really high level of resolution. But the first startup I worked at, my boss, the CIO, his name was Pete, and he always talked about his talent being figuring out how to integrate technologies, not only within the company, but between businesses and stuff, because we had the e-commerce platform. And then he always talked about finding out what people were passionate about and mining that and helping them develop it. And I just kind of took that as, finding what you're best at and letting you do that work. But I think it actually means more than that.
Yeah.
And I think it really dials into competence. And competence is a complex topic. And I feel like that's another quality that I admire in strong leadership is the ability to discern between competence and incompetence, and the difference between a mistake and being incompetent, right? Because as a human being, it's cliched, but we all make mistakes. We're fallible creatures by nature. And in fact, we learn primarily by trial and error, which is inherently mistake driven. So, like the concept of firing, right? I'm not a big believer in just flat out firing somebody unless it's grossly negligent, right? Or it's putting somebody at risk. I mean, like physical harm risk.
Sure.
But I don't believe in keeping people around that are incompetent. Like they should not be here.
Yeah, I agree with that. The passionate part is interesting, because there is a difference just in terms of what you're good at. Because, I can be as passionate as I want about becoming a naval aviator. It's not going to happen. I could know everything about that. I could have done all the same types of simulation trainings that they've all gone through. It's never going to happen. But there is that aspect of where's the balance, something that someone is truly interested in, that is good for not just themselves and growing them, but it's also good for the organization. So when you can get all three of those things to align, it's like magic. And it feels great when you, at least for me as someone that's a mentor, it makes me feel good going, I just put that person in the right spot and I got the trifecta. They love what they're doing. They're growing in that area and the organization is benefiting tremendously. It's difficult. It's difficult to find that trifecta.
It is, man. Well, because like I think that was well stated. You know, there's things that I'm passionate about, like you, that I like. Let's take music for example, right? There's certain types of music that I'm really interested in, but I'm not going to become a musician. I'm not going to put the time into it. You know what I mean? It's not that I couldn't. It's just I'm just not at a point in my life where that's the way I'm going to go now. So somebody that's leading me, if they're a good leader, should not put me into a position to be a musician, right?
Yeah.
But there's other ways potentially to take that passion for that type of music and leverage what I'm competent at. You know what I mean? Right?
Yeah.
And I think that's hard, man. As a leader, that's really hard. You really have to spend time with people. And so that's interesting though, because you ain't going to get that through email.
Never. You can't get it through email. This is the part where there is a fine line between remote employees and productivity, the collaboration, and how do you get all that to happen if they're remote? It's very difficult, and really I don't think you can. I think if you don't have a time where everyone can come together and build those relationships, that being a remote employee just does not work. There are exceptions to that, but like even right now, I mean, we have our show, we chat on things like this. I mean, well, we go back now. It'll be 8 years this summer, right?
Yeah.
And you've got to have that personal contact to be able to go, hey, how's this stuff really tick for people?
Well, right,
never
because
email. If you only communication is via email, which is the worst form of communication, it's like having a pen pal.
Well, we talked about that before. It's not communication; it's notification. It's not the same thing.
Correct.
It's like it's more like an alert than it is anything.
Yeah.
But it's so easy to confuse it with a letter because it's not a letter. It doesn't replace letters. And what I was going to say too, to your point, is while I think things like this, Google Hangouts or Skype or Zoom, are steps in the right direction so that at least you can have real-time face-to-face communication, there's still nothing that, at least right now, virtually replicates what really is a tribal instinct for us, which is to gather around in a group, like around a campfire, so to speak, right? And talk.
Mm-hmm.
There's only one way to do that. That's to get together around a campfire, so to speak. That's a metaphor, and talk. There's nothing that replicates that, because at some point,
but if you have a campfire, that's even better.
It is, man. Actually, it is. Oh, and by the way, I found some places to hunt here.
Nice.
And sidestep, right? As far as I can tell so far, based on what I've seen, I have seen fox, skunk, which I don't know what you're going to do with it, but I've seen them, so I'm just reporting. I've seen lots of tracks, and I know people hunt them, but I haven't physically seen them. Deer. I've seen one deer, but it was in a different field that I wouldn't hunt on. Lots of turkey, man. Lots of turkey. Giant turkeys, man. They just stroll around like nothing's going on. Anyway. And the reason I think gathering around is so important to us, even though it's a tribal instinct, is because if I'm passionate and I'm competent in that passion, and you have this trifecta lined up, you still, as a leader, need to, I feel like as a leader, I need to observe somebody embodying that passion and that competence and actually doing something.
It's true.
And there's no other way to do that except being there with the person and talking with them and being physically close.
Well, I need to learn a lot more about that person. What makes them tick? Find out what they're passionate about, what their buttons are. People have asked, because for me as a leader, I'm not looking to just demoralize you. That's a short-term punishment. Like punishment as itself, like that, short-term, is not productive in the long term at all. I don't have to yell at anyone that works for me, and nor do I want to. It's just, that's not my style. But as I get to know them, there are things and ways in which I can say to them that, without being demoralizing, can hit home so much harder than ever yelling at them, because it's like they're put at ease because they're being talked to, and then you just hit them with some hard truth, and they weren't expecting it like that, and so it takes that much more effect. Same thing now. Praising. I mean, I believe I will go over the top in public. So when I go to put someone kind of in their place because they've screwed up, it's in private. It's me and that person talking one-on-one. I don't make a show of it. It's the doors closed. Let's have this. No one needs to know what we talked about. It's between you and I. Praise, I'm doing that in public, and I will do everything I can to go over the top. And that's just one of the big things: praise in public, punish in private. And I think a lot of people have forgotten that. This Jack Welch method of management does not work. Treat people, like I'm constantly, Alyssa would say, "Oh, I'm a feminist." No, I'm a humanist. I really don't. I do the right thing the right way, because that's just who I am. I have to.
Yeah, so, yeah. I think you and I are much more of a pragmatic, take a much more pragmatic approach than anything else. It's just for me, and I think it is the same for you too. It's really about let's just be maximally competent.
Yeah, and this is probably, when I take a look at people that have been leaders of mine, and actually I would say a lot of the people that I've had to report to were not leaders; they were managers, and that drove me nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones that are, I believe that I'm a pretty good leader. I have a lot of people that are willing to work for me on multiple occasions. So not just one company. So they've worked for me on multiple times. A lot of this it comes out that I give them the opportunity to fail.
Well, because leadership is to me, leadership is about creating a co-op, right? Where everybody equally shares in the success and the failure. And so there's a sense of ownership. And so to me, being on both sides of this at different times in my life, it creates a sense of there's an incentive to try to be maximally competent for yourself as an individual so that the organism, the team, the company, so forth and so on, because it scales up, is successful. Whereas when you take a more conservative, strict management approach, that's not part of your vernacular. It's not a co-op. It's about squeezing the lower tiers to maximize the gain at the upper tiers at the cost of almost everything.
Yep. And this is the thing that I think that more leaders need to start trying to do this. And this is with any relationship. In a relationship, you can only define one of these two categories: the what or the how. If you're going to define the what and the how, then you're an individual contributor, period. I mean, you're doing your own thing out there, whatever.
Right.
So as a leader, I define the what. This is what we are going to do. My direct reports need to figure out the how. There are some hows that are easier than others. It would be wise if we talked about it, because you have still some parameters. Like, you only have X amount of budget. You don't get to do it just anyway. You have parameters. If we chat it through and you start having these peer reviews, you might find that there's a better way to do it. And this is the great part in this case. And this is how CEOs, when you start taking a look at it, like big time CEOs, if there's a failure and they are able to get rid of someone, they can go, "Hey, you just didn't quite understand the strategy, so you got to go. I told you the what. You weren't able to accomplish the what. You didn't buy into the what." Well, there's a flip side to that. How come I couldn't get them to buy into the what?
That's right. Yeah. Why did they not? Like, this is an interesting one too, asking questions, right? So it's easy as a manager to say, "Employee, if you need help, ask," compared to a leader that asks the followers if they need anything, like actively engaging them rather than waiting around for them to come. Because look at a typical classroom. How many people ask questions? Very few. Very few people will actively engage. Most people, naturally, through instinct and temperament, are going to be passive and reactive.
It's true. It's very true. So it's funny that you say that, because I changed. One of the first things I did is taking over now as the interim head honcho. First thing I'd said to them is this managers meeting, this is about me knowing what can I do for you all? What obstacles are in your way that I need to go help remove? This is our opportunity that if we missed it last week in some other shape or form, here's the opportunity for me to go do something to help you. So that's that. It's not, I don't need status reports. I can read, you send them in. All right, I got it. I'm talking to you all every day. If you're in the office, I come around and we chat. How are things, how things are going? What's your plans for the rest of the week? I do that kind of one-on-one, 5 minutes, bam, 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 and it's almost every day. That managers meeting, it used to be 2 hours. 2 hours. Now check this out, and help me understand this. This very small company named Ford Motor Company, where Alan Mulally could have his international status meeting with all of his direct reports, and I think one level down, he could do all of that in 2 hours. Small, little, tiny company like Ford Motor Company. How could a very large organization of 6 direct reports, why does that take 2 hours?
I've noticed this, man. When there's a lack of leadership and there's an over conservative management structure in place, it seems like and I've seen this at Fortune 500 level, and I've seen it at small nonprofits. There's a tendency to over meeting that creates this sense of communication that's an illusion. You're not communicating, you're masturbating. And what you're simulating through that masturbation is communication and interaction. Yeah. And so then what people turn around and do is they then almost immediately stop communicating outside of meetings, because they assume that the other people that were there were paying attention, which they're not, because their eyes are glazed over too. Nobody wants to sit in a fucking meeting like that day after day, multiple times a day. It's craziness. And so then actually communication gets worse, not better. Meetings don't solve problems. Work solves problems. Defining the what and empowering everybody else to come up with the how solves the problems, not meeting. Meetings don't solve shit.
Yep. I do. When there's a large project, I literally do stand-ups. We're going to be out of this thing in 15 minutes.
Hell yeah, man. That Scrum method works.
Yep. What did you do yesterday? What are you going to do today? Did you do what you actually said you were going to do yesterday? How are we moving the needle?
Right. Do you need any help with what you're going to do today and tomorrow?
Right. That's it. That's how I run those large projects. It's been successful throughout my entire career. Again, it's been successful because I feel like what I have done is put people in the right place to succeed. And in return, they have made me look like a genius. That's what it is. People are like, oh my gosh, you're so smart. I just believe what I do better than many, many people is I just put them in a place to succeed. And it makes me look like I'm a genius. No, I have a lot of people that work for me that are much smarter than I am.
Well, and right, and that's a team.
They are.
Well, and so having worked with you and for you, what I think is a good leadership quality is exactly that. And it's actually easier once you get your ego out of the way, right? Than trying to manage it. Because what managers do is they set themselves up to be bottlenecks because they want to control everything because they're taking a conservative approach to it, right? No, if you just lead, which to me makes sense when you think about it, is one person can't do all this work. That's why you have a team. Mm-hmm. So it's more important that all those individuals are highly productive. And to do that, you have to actively engage them and empower them and let them take more power.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. I want to take a vacation. All right. If I have to control everything, that means I can't really take a vacation.
That's right. That's right.
I for whether people like it or not, how I do things, And all of my new directs were like, so I can go and talk to anyone? Yes, you have to. Now, in some cases, you might want to just talk to me about it ahead of time. Make sure you because hey, this could go horribly wrong for you. Let's chat about it. I do that. I'll chat with people about it. Hey, what do you think about this delivery? But don't let me get blindsided. No, don't. I better not get blindsided. So come talk to me afterwards, because here's the thing. I would say to them, hey, you all are all professionals. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? After 20 years of experience, I don't think you're going to be 100% wrong. Maybe you're going to be like, what, 20, 30% wrong on some message you delivered? You come talk to me and I'm like, well, hey, Jimmy, did you think about this? Oh, no, I forgot about that. Well, how does that change the scenario? Oh, it changes it like this. Well, guess what? You get to go back and talk to Sally and let her know you were slightly wrong. Guess what? They're never going to think anything of it. Be like, oh, hey, Sally, by the way, I got some updated information. Instead of it being X, it's now Y. Cool. Appreciate it. Thanks for calling. We'll adjust accordingly.
Yeah.
That's basically how that works.
Well, and that's why another delineation that I think is really important to think about, and I don't think many people think about this, and you and I have hinted at it before, and I've actually spent a good bit of time thinking about it just for myself, and it's specifically related to our doctoral training. I think good leaders ask questions. I think bad managers make statements.
Yeah. It's true.
You can't be wrong if you're asking a question, because all you're trying to do is find out what is the fact or the truth or what's going on or what should be done or what needs to be adapted or removed or so forth and so on. If you try to take a stance of making statements, right, as if you're some type of tyrant and ruling over a kingdom, then eventually the peasants are going to revolt in one way or another. And it just completely de-incentivizes everything.
Very true. Very true. So, that's exactly how I try to do things. And I was talking to this cat last night, and he's a leadership trainer. And I was kind of telling him, he goes, that's exactly the way you're supposed to do it. He goes, I could probably help because it's his company, to help you refine some of your stuff when you're ready to make a transition somewhere else. He goes, but I can't make you a better, CIO. I can't make you a better banker. I can't make you this, but I could help you to refine your leadership tactics as to how you're going to get more from your team. That's right. That's kind of what I do. And part of that is the good balance of discipline of your people when they're doing something wrong, as well as the praise. And he's like, I don't understand this. I got this one customer. He's a retired 3-star Marine general, horrible leader. He's successful in his business, but he's like refuses to fire people. How could this be? I'm like, well, probably if I had to guess, like in the military, you have this other type of structure that shows you how you're going to do it, and it's different because you can rely back on that rule book. When it's your own company, it's your own rule book. It's a lot more difficult.
Yeah. Well, and that's a fundamental difference to me, again, between leaders and managers. Yeah. Leaders are creative. They solve problems dynamically. Managers have nothing to fall back on because they're not creative people. And that's not a dig. It's a temperament thing, right?
And now make no mistake for all those watching across the universe. You need managers.
I was just going to say that. Yes, exactly. Like, look, man, if I had a product that was stable in the marketplace and it had a good return on it, I'd put a manager in control. I don't need to innovate there. I want my creative people somewhere else and innovating for the next cycle.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to have managers, because here's the other part of it. When you look at it, there can be only one CEO. So that person, whoever it is the alpha. That's it. What they say, that goes. Period.
Yeah. If I had hourly employees, you bet your ass I want a manager in control of that. Dude, a creative person is going to be horrible tracking time cards. Horrible.
Yeah.
Because it's not a creative thing, right? But somebody that's a manager by temperament, they're conservative, they're going to manage the process. And that's what you want in those types of situations.
That's true.
In my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I look at those kind of things. And funny enough, I was just told that only one person in the universe is watching. So who do you think that one person is?
I don't know. There's two now, man. Somebody just tuned in.
One of them has a huge man crush on you.
Oh, I wonder who that is.
Well, even though he constantly says he doesn't, but the way in which he talks about you, it's just it's quite amazing, because he can't get enough of Dr. Pittman.
What are you gonna do, man? Look at this. Dude, I did an hour on the bike. Oh man, dude, it's harder to ride in high humidity. Oh my god.
Yeah, it is, of course.
And there's so many fucking hills around here, man.
Let's see what this cat's saying.
Oh, you getting chatted up by a viewer?
Like, tell the chicken farmer I said hello, because he's all about Dr. Pittman.
Gee, who is that?
He really wants you to come out and visit him, because he needs some of your direct guidance, I believe. That's why, even though he says he doesn't, he needs his shaman.
I was going to say somebody needs their shamanic journey.
Yeah.
See, but actually it's funny, but look, man, I've been clear for a long time that that's an archetype that I aspire to personally, because what does a shaman do? He leads you on a journey.
Yeah.
He's not there to give you answers. He's not there to solve problems for you. He's there to empower you to solve your own problems. That's the classical archetype. Now, I don't know that I do that. I try, because I think that's a noble cause. It's a noble purpose. I think it's actually more noble than a paladin. So there you go.
And so now he's going, oh, dear God, no, please, no. Like, he really wants, he does.
I know that dude just wants to get into a sweat lodge with me and work his problems out. I get it.
He just, I think you're the father that he's never truly had in his life. You're that father figure.
I'll take Big Brother.
Yeah.
Or just look, man.
But dude, you're old enough to be his dad. So I mean, it's
oh, Jesus Christ, man, that's scary.
So he just needs that only the kind of love that a father could give. Sometimes it's a firm hand, sometimes a pat on the back, and I think this particular one is, he just needs a little bit of that tough love.
Well, I mean, to some degree, don't we all want to be led in some ways? Don't we all want to be mentored?
You have to.
I don't think that ever stops. Well, I mean, when you're dead, I suppose, but
sure.
I don't know what's on the other side of that either, so I'm not going to say with any certainty what's going on.
Yeah. So.
Oh, anyway. Update on the pirate party. Gotta
have the update.
So they finally created my account on the website, and I can log in, but I can't make heads or tails of exactly what's going on. So I'm going to have to figure out how I'm going to participate via IRC, and I'm going to get this baby running, because now I've started to figure out some of my economic platform.
Okay.
So I'm going to run. I haven't worked out all the details of how to shift over to this. What's that?
It's going to be on the booty.
No, man, I'm going to create a giant co-op. Based on citizenship. If you're a citizen of the sovereign territory of Carolina, it's going to be one giant co-op. And that's how I'm going to get rid of taxes, and we'll work off tariffs. I think that's a good way to go. Or just up taxes and completely eliminate tariffs. It's one or the other, as I understand it. I'm not an economist yet. And we'll all participate, and then we'll have incentives to be good citizens to not only the sovereign entity of the Carolina, but to each other. So and we'll all be tied into the fate together.
Yeah. So how do you know you're just not going to reproduce what the Pilgrims had originally done? And then they finally said, you cats going to have to go start working, because then there was the people that did more work and didn't get they didn't get the share of what they were producing more, but they weren't getting as much in return.
Well, just like any organization, there's going to be low performers, and some low performers you can get to be middle performers, and some low performers just need to go.
Yeah. Called from the herd.
That's right. Well, look, man, if you're not going to participate in the co-op and be a citizen of the sovereign territory, then you can go live in California.
Good luck.
Yeah. Talk about economics, man. I mean, taxes are going up in California. That's outrageous.
And I don't understand that.
They have a giant surplus. Why are you raising taxes? For what end? I mean, where's that money going? For what?
The government is not supposed to have a surplus. They're supposed to break even.
And I promise every citizen in the territory an annual individualized report that they'll be able to access through the web portal, where they can see exactly where every cent of every tax dollar or tariff dollar collected goes. And if they don't like it, they can participate.
Boom. Nice. Nice.
There you go, man.
Episode, what are we at?
76, man. That's it.
6.
Whoo-wee. We're closing in quick on 100, dude.
Yeah, we are. I think we can get there.
We got to have like a big multi-guest party. We got to figure that out. We got to get TK back on here, man. I'd be interested in his take on some of this shit.
Yeah, I think he'd do it. You know, we could bring your fanboy. The guy's got the man crush on you. Death Star.
That guy has an open invitation. He can come on anytime he wants.
I don't think he can control himself around you. He just gets like so nervous.
I have that effect on bitches. I'm teasing. No, I don't, man. Dude, I like the guy. I've always said that. I want him to reach his maximum potential. He can be his little 5-year-old self and tell me that I have cooties, but I know he really likes me. He hears the message. He thinks about it.
Oh, he does. Probably a little bit too much.
Hey, man, I don't know. I don't think you can ever think too much. Well, it depends on what you're thinking about. But if you're thinking about me, you can't think too much.
Oh, man.
That's episode 76 in the can, man.
All right, people.
All right, man. We'll try again on Thursday.
Yeah.
We'll get,
I think we'll be able to this Thursday, but I'm starting to change my message a little bit. Instead of, I'm going to go back and take the Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Be excellent to one another.
That's right, man. Yeah. I don't think we need to be weak, but there's certainly nothing wrong with being compassionate.
Yep. Be excellent to one another, folks.
That's
See
right.
you all on Thursday.
Later, everybody.